You're watching KRON On, streaming now from KRON 4, the Bay Area's local news station.
Thanks for joining us here on KRON On. I'm Noelle Bello. The city of Belmont has a new poet laureate. The city's mayor recently appointed Korde to the honorary role that acts as an ambassador and advocate for poetry, literature, and the arts. Monica's joining us now to share what the appointment means to her. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. It is absolute privilege. Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course. How long have you been a poet?
Oh, as long as I can remember, since I was a kid in school. So it's been quite a while now.
Okay. And I guess, why do you like it? Why did you gravitate towards it?
So you can say I've grown up in a literary lover's home in India. And my mother is a poet and writer. She writes in her mother tongue, which is Marathi. And as a kid, I have grown up listening to her poetry. My father was always a voracious reader, so literary discussions were a part of everyday life. So I've always been inclined towards the literary arts since a young age, even in school and surrounded by literature. So it feels like poetry came instinctively to me first, with the love for languages, its sounds, the rhythm itself, which is so inviting. And poetry as an art is not demanding at all. So you just need a piece of pen and paper, or these days just a phone with a notes app works just fine. So yeah, it came as a beautiful stranger, you could say, whom I met on the way. I have been quite shy as a kid, so it became a wonderful place for me, a kind and supportive friend whom I found in poetry, so I could express myself without inhibitions.
Even the way you speak is absolutely beautiful. It's so eloquent. You've, I know, written several poems that have been published over the years. What do you hope people feel, or how do you hope people feel after they read one of your poems?
So, like I've always felt that poetry is something very innate within us, just like songs and music and all the beautiful arts that we are surrounded by. And it is just another way of expressing yourself. So it it has to come from a natural. It has to originate from a very natural place, not forced or not through any kind of pressure. And I feel that that's what my poetry, through my poetry, I'm trying to do that. What I observe and what I see, uh, that is what I'm trying to reflect on. And through these reflections, I'm sharing the world that I see, my voice that I would love to be heard. And I want people to just feel the everyday joy and the everyday life around them through the poetry that they will read.
Well, I know that you're doing it correctly. Of course, again, you've been named as Poet Laureate there in Belmont. What is going to be your primary role, and what do you hope to bring to that role?
Well, it is absolute honor to uh, be appointed as the Poet Laureate of Belmont. The program is supported by the City of Belmont and the Belmont Library. And I have always said that the Belmont Library has been one of my best friends, especially when I moved here from India. And um, I have seen through both these strong pillars that support the program, how the Poet Laureate position just allows uh, us a way to generate more awareness about poetry, about the literary arts, and basically, a Poet Laureate is an ambassador for the literary arts, an advocate for poetry. So. I have always been just involved in the world of poetry through the beautiful poetry circles I have found. And the poetry community support is just amazing, quite unbelievable here. So, uh, one of the things that I'd love to do, and it is part of the responsibility of a poet laureate, is to bring people together, connect them with poetry, and just have bridge these voices and the literary arts together. So I'd be beginning soon by resuming the monthly Belmont Poetry Open Mic. It is a poetry night which welcomes people across the globe. And one of the things that I'll be beginning with is celebrating the National Arts and Humanities Month for October. So we are having a musician, a local musician from Belmont, who would be playing the harp for us. And
Wow.
in the future, we'll also have very soon in December a holiday poetry event, which aims to bring about diverse cultural voices together to just have a festive and beautiful time together.
Definitely.
Yeah, so these are the initial few things.
Well, I love that, and that sounds like something I would really enjoy going to, a poetry open
Well,
mic
then
nights, that
you are
sort of
most
thing.
welcome, Noel.
Yeah, I'd love to come. You mentioned that you were a bit shy, and that poetry was like a friend to you. Why do you think it's so important to teach, especially young people, about poetry and the benefits of writing down your thoughts and your feelings?
So one of the things that I feel is poetry is nourished by its community of writers as well as its community of readers, listeners, and admirers. And we have such diverse voices within our community. And through the literary arts, they find a way to be heard and exist. So from my personal experiences as a poet who was shy, but I was sending out my poems for poetry contests and just participating in poetry contests and not really putting myself out there, but in some ways trying ways to let my voice be heard. It is when I came here in California, in Belmont, where I started participating in open mics. And as a poet attending open mics, I have known that being a poet on a page is great, but listening to yourself read, sharing your voice outside of yourself is so much more important for our own well being and to shape our own identity through it. Whatever struggle we may be going through, whether it's um, a struggle about your finding your own identity in a new place, it can be any new place, a new country, a new school. So through the projects I have envisioned, I aim to create opportunities for members of community to connect with poetry. And we have just beautiful, gifted people around us. So it's very important that uh, we hear them out and they also
Yeah.
find places where they can hear themselves. Only that is when they will know what is hiding behind them. So I think that poetry allows one to be more aware about oneself, more conscious about one's own thoughts. And one of my projects is uh, called Poetry 360, which cultivates the concept of having poetry all around us. And through community workshops, I want poetry to break out from the page and create a way for it to exist amongst us, whether it's the libraries, in the parks, on virtual platforms, and just basically everyday conversations. So instead of people approaching poetry, I want poetry to approach people. So I'm very interested in connecting with the youth and create spaces for them to share their voice, which I think is extremely important in this day and age in shaping creative and contributing individuals.
Well, I think that they really hit the nail on the head when they chose you as their new poet laureate there in Belmont. Monica, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck to you on your efforts to bring poetry to the people there in Belmont. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Noel, and thank you for this beautiful time.
Of course, of course. Have a good day.